Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel, and in today's video tutorial I'm going to show you how I made this granny square sling bag. Follow along with this tutorial. I'm going to show you how to make it. So just a little bit of disclaimer, you might be hearing some buzzing in the background. That is just my air conditioning running. It is extreme heat here by us. I think it's like 34-35 degrees today. So, and this little office of mine is getting extremely hot at this stage, so I have an air conditioning running, so you might be hearing that buzzing sound in the background. I'm sorry if it's annoying. I can't turn the air conditioning off, otherwise I will be drenching in sweat like in minutes, and I think you'd rather prefer a little bit of a buzzing noise than me sitting here sweating. So unfortunately we have to deal with that, and we are in summer here in South Africa, so for the next couple of months, you're going to hear a little bit of a buzzing sound. I'm going to try and edit it out when I do edit the video so that the sound isn't so obvious in the background, but yeah, we're gonna go with what we can. So I am going to show you now how I made the granny square. I'm gonna show you how I made the handle, how I put the bag together. I'm gonna show you how I attached my handle, and then you can make your own little bag. So without keeping you any further, let's go, and I'm going to show you how I made this granny square. So the yarn that I used for this bag in this tutorial and with the previous bag in this photo, I used the Making Everyday Mandala Day from Kismet yarn. This is the 67 blanket yarn. This is a rawn. This is their brand new color range that they brought out. So this is like a variegated yarn, and this is the color 802 Raindrops. So this is the color that I used. I only used one skein to make the bag. I had this left after making the bag. Can actually make the bag a little bit bigger than I have made it, but for the video purposes I did make it a little bit smaller, so it is easier for me to fit it in frame. You can make the bag as big or as small as you want to. And then for the ribbing, I also used the Kismet, but I used the Kismet 50/50 DK. This is a 50% cotton, a 50% acrylic. I used the cotton for the ribbing because for the handle, because it's more durable and less stretchy than your 100% acrylic yarn. And I'm going to show you a little trick that I did to prevent the handle from stretching too much, because I have seen that many times with bags. If people make a bag and they load it a little bit too heavy, the handle stretches out a lot. So I'm going to show you how to prevent that from stretching out too much if you overload the bag or you have a heavy item in the bag, to prevent the handle from stretching out too much. So other tools that you will need, so the yarn requires a 4.5 or a 5.5 millimeter hook. I used a 5 millimeter crochet hook, and then you're also going to need a darning needle for sewing, and then of course a pair of scissors to cut your yarn, and that is basically what you're going to need. So this video tutorial doesn't include adding a liner inside. So there's many times that people would take a piece of fabric like cotton or polyester or any type of material, and they would attach it to the inside of the bag, making the bag so that nothing can fall out or stick through, because it is a granny squares pattern, and granny squares does have openings in between the clusters. So if you want to add a lining, you can do that as well. So to make a bag, you will need 3 granny squares. So I already made this granny square. It is 13 rows wide, but you can make this bag as small or as big as you want to. If you want to measure how big your bag is going to be, once you have made your granny square, you need to fold one corner to the other corner, so it makes like a little triangle, and then from there you can measure how big your bag will be. So if you measure from the center point to this point, let's say it's only to here, you're going to multiply by 2 because you have 2 sides. So you have the one side and you have the other side if you flip it over. So you're going to measure from this corner, from the center of the granny square, all the way up to where you have crocheted, and then you multiply by 2, and that's how broad or wide your bag will be. And then of course you can also know this is the depth of your bag, so this is the bottom part, this is how high it's going to go up, and then it's going to have the 2 side parts as well. So I like to start my granny squares with a magic circle. So we're going to do a magic ring or magic circle, and then once we have completed it, we're going to chain 3, and that's the first leg of your first cluster for your granny square stitch. So we're going to chain 3. Now we're going to add 2 double crochets. So double crochet is yarn over, insert your hook under the ring, bring it up, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. That is 1 double crochet, and you're going to add another one. So that is your first granny square cluster stitch of your first round completed. Now you're going to chain 1, and you're going to repeat by adding 3 double crochets once again. That is your second granny square cluster stitch. So it's 1, 2, 3. Then you're going to chain 1 again, and you're going to repeat this 2 times more, so you have 4 of these clusters within this magic ring. So this is number 3. We're going to do 3 double crochets right next to each other. We're going to chain 1 again, and we're going to add another cluster. So that's 3 double crochet next to each other, and that is our very last cluster for the granny square and for the first round of the bag. Now we're just going to pull our string tight, and we're going to chain 1, and we're going to slip stitch into the top of the chain 3 that we have created in the beginning. So we're going to insert our hook there, we're going to pull up yarn, and we're going to chain 3 again. So it's 1, 2, 3. Now we are going to work in that opening. As you can see, there's 1 opening, 2, 3, and 4. So we're going to do 2 double crochets within that first opening. So you're going to yarn over, you're going to insert your hook under those openings, and you're going to yarn over and over again, and that's 1 double crochet. And you're going to repeat that by yarning over, insert your hook, yarn over, and yarn over. So there is 1 granny square cluster stitch done. Now this is going to be the end of your round, and so we're going to move on to the next opening. So it's going to be 3 double crochets at the bottom, that's 1 cluster. So we're going to move on to the next opening. We're not going to chain anything because we want the squares clusters to be tightly next to each other. So we're not going to chain anything. We're going to go straight into that next opening for 2 clusters within that 1 opening, so we can create a corner. So that's 1, 2, 3 double crochets. Now we're going to chain 1 to create that corner, and we're going to do another cluster within that opening. So that's 3 double crochets next to each other. So it's 1, 2, 3. And there we have created our first corner of our second round. So now we're going to go into the next opening, and we're going to go straight in there without having to chain, and we're going to do 3 double crochets within that chain, in with that opening. 1, 2, 3. That's 1 cluster done. We're going to chain 1, and we're going to do another 3 double crochets within that 1 cluster. So now we have completed our second corner for our granny square. Now we move on to the next one. So we're moving on to the third corner. There's the opening. We're going to go straight into it with 2 granny square clusters. So that's 1 cluster done. Chain 1, do another cluster within that opening. And now we have created the third corner of our granny square. Now we're going to move on to the last corner. So we're going to go straight into that opening where that last cluster was, or the first one that we made. So it's going to be 3 double crochets for your cluster. And now we're going to chain 1, and we're going to insert our hook into the top of that chain 3. We're going to pull up a loop, and we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3, and that's the first leg of your first cluster. We're going to yarn over, insert our hook, doing 2 double crochets to finish that cluster. And there we have our first granny square cluster. So this is where your round is going to end, and we are now moving on to round 3. So with round 3, you will see that there's now an extra opening, and that one is placed in the center. So we are only going to make one cluster in each center opening of the previous round. So we're going to yarn over, insert a hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, and that's one double crochet, and we're going to do 2 more to finish the cluster. Remember, we're not going to make a stitch in between them because we want the clusters nice and firm, tightly against each other. So we're going to move on to the next corner. That is the first corner of our granny square, and we're going to go straight into that corner, and we're going to make 2 clusters with a chain 1 in between of them to form that corner. So that's one cluster, chain, a second cluster, now that we are finished, we have that one corner finished, we're going to go into the center, and that's where we're going to make another one cluster in the center. Now we're moving on to the next corner. In the next corner, we're going to do 2 clusters with a chain in between, a chain 1 in between them. So that's one cluster, chain 1, do another cluster within that opening. So on each corner you will be making 2 clusters and a chain 1 in between them to form the square for the granny square. So now we're going to move on to the next center opening, and we're going to make 1 cluster in that opening. Moving on to the next corner, we are going to do 2 clusters with a chain 1 in between them. Chain 1, and then a cluster again. And then for the last center opening, we're going to do 1 cluster. And then we're going to go straight into that corner where that 1 cluster is left. We're going to finish that corner by adding the second cluster. Chaining at the top of the 3 chains, 2 double crochets to finish that cluster. Now that we have come to the 4th round, you will see that there's now 2 openings in the center. So you will be making 1 cluster, 1 cluster. On the corner will be 2 clusters, 1 cluster, 1 cluster, 2 clusters in the corner, 2 in the center, 2 on the corner, 2 in the center again. And you will be repeating this method every time you make a new round. Just remember that these are going to multiply. So this is going to be 2, next round is going to be 3, next round will be 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and it's going to continue till you have reached round 13 with your last round of your granny square. So you're going to end it here, and you're going to cut the yarn, and you're going to make 3 of them. So this is how you do the granny square. So we have our first cluster corner, and now we're just going to move straight into and do a cluster. There's 1 cluster. We're going to move straight into the next opening between the 2 clusters of the previous round, and we're going to make a cluster in there. And now we're going to move to the corner where we do 2 clusters within that corner with a chain 1 in between, so that we can create that little corner for the granny square to turn. And that is how you're going to grow onto your granny square, and you're going to make it bigger till you have reached round 13. Like the handle of the bag, I used the Kismet 50/50, and I'm going to show you what I did. So I basically just made a single crochet ribbing. So I'm going to make a slip stitch. I'm going to chain 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then I'm going to work back single crochets in the last 6 chains. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I'm going to chain 1, turn my work, and now in the back loop only of my work I'm going to do single crochet. So you're going to go back loop and you're going to single crochet 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to chain 1 again. I'm going to turn my work and I'm going to do a 6 single crochets in the back loop again of the next round, and I'm going to repeat this. So my sling's handle is 87 rows long. I didn't make it too long because you're going to have it stretching as well. So just make sure when you do crochet it that you don't make it too long, otherwise your bag is going to lay too low on your hip. So I didn't make it too long. I made it 87 rounds long, and I'm going to add a slip stitch to the side as well, and this is going to prevent it from stretching too much. So there's going to be a little bit of a stretch, but it's going to be as much as it is here, as you can see as it opens up here. So it's going to be a little more tighter and not so stretchy. Here I just moved down to the ground because it is quite a big project to have filming. So what you're going to do now, if you have finished your 3 granny squares, you're going to take your granny squares and you're going to fold them. This is the wrong side and this is then the right side where the yarn tail isn't. So you want the yarn tails to be showing towards you because this is the wrong side. So what we want to do now is we want to flip them all over so that the yarn tail is not towards us. And what we're going to do now, we're going to fold them in half. But we're going to fold them from the one opposite corner to the next opposite corner so that it makes a triangle. And this is what you want at the end of the day. So you want it to be with the tail on the outside, because when we are going to attach the 3 corners together, the stitch work, the sewing work is going to be on the inside when we flip it out to the right side. So I hope that makes sense. So what you're going to do now is you're going to take all 3 corners and you're going to fold them into a triangle, and this is the shape that we're going to form. And what we're going to do now is we're going to connect this together. So what I do is I just use stitch markers just to mark where I'm going and where I'm ending with my corners. So I'm just going to attach them this side to the bottom, and also this side I'm going to place on the other side. I'm also going to place a stitch marker. So that way I know that these 2 corners, if I fold it open like this, I need to crochet, slip stitch across these 2 corners. So now when I lay it flat, I know this is marked from one point A to point B. Yes, point B is inside here. Point A to point B, I'm going to slip stitch across here with my crochet hook and my yarn. So I'm going to start with the green stitch. I'm going to insert my hook through both sides. We're going to attach the yarn. Going to give it a little knot, and then we're going to single crochet or slip stitch into every single stitch across. So make sure that you do insert into both stitches and on both sides of your granny square. And we're going to continue this around till we have reached this red marker here. Okay, so once you have finished slip stitching or single crocheting that corner, what you're going to do to get the bag back in its form is you're going to open it up and you're going to take corner A and corner B and you're going to bring it together. And there you have your one section of your bag now completed. So now we're going to take the third part, the third square, and we're going to attach it to this side. So what we're going to do now is you're going to just remove your stitch marker that you placed in here. You're going to move it over and connect it to the new one and back to the centerpiece. And you're going to do it the same with the green. You're going to unclip it here. You're going to add it to the third stitch and into the center of that piece, and you're going to connect it. And now what we're going to do is we're going to take it again and we're going to open it up, and now we're going to have them like this, but you just need to remember that you shouldn't be attaching all three sides together, only the two sides connected with the stitch marker. So we're going to single crochet once again from point A to point B. We're going to single crochet across here and here, closing up this piece. So we are just going to connect these two. So you don't want this part to be attached to that one, so you only want the two sides. So we're going to insert our hook. We're going to attach our yarn. And now we're just going to single crochet or slip stitch depending on what you want to do. I just single crochet, it's easier for me. And we're going to single crochet across till we have reached point B with the green stitch marker. Okay, so now that you have crocheted or single crochet stitch these two corners together and this is now closed up, we're going to fold the bag back to what it was by just putting the two corners together and just popping it out there. You will find the way, you will see it will go into place if you flip it over one corner. And there we go. There we have our bag now finished. This is now the base, and now we're going to attach the handle. So we're going to attach the yarn to the bag, and we're going to do a double crochet all around the edge till we have reached this corner of the bag so that we can attach the other side of the sling to it. So this just gives them a nice edging. You don't have to do this if you don't want to, but I just like giving the bag a little bit of an extra length, especially in the center, and it also just gives that nice finish and it keeps the stitches together. So when you do put in something heavy or you do put something in large, it just stays in a nice form because the acrylic, the cotton is not so stretchy as the acrylic, so it keeps it nice in place. Once you have reached the other corner, you want to make sure that your strap isn't twisted. So make sure your strap is not twisted, so hold it like this to make sure that the strap isn't going to twist, because otherwise you're not going to be able to untwist it. So just make sure that your strap isn't twisted. Now you're going to place the opposite side of your strap against your work like this, and you're going to single crochet into the strap stitch and into the handbag, into the base of the handbag. So you're going to single crochet six across to attach the sling to the bag, and there you have your sling attached to your bag, nice and neat. And now you're just going to continue to the opposite side, and you're just going to do half double crochets across. So you have reached this part of your sling, and you're going to do the same. You're going to hold it against the work, and you're just going to single crochet 6 to keep it, to connect it to the bag like you did with this one. So now I've attached both sides of the sling, and basically the bag is now done. But what I said in the beginning of the video is that you can do a slip stitch across the side of this handle to prevent it from stretching out. So you can use the same color of the cotton, or you can go back into the main color of your bag, or if you made the bag in one color, you can just continue without having to cut the yarn, just continue making a slip stitch across this ridge. It's also just going to give it a nice finish, but I'm not going to use the cotton. I'm going to use the acrylic yarn that I made the bag with, just to give it that nice little edging. So I'm just going to insert my hook again, and I'm going to take the yarn, I'm going to attach it, and I'm going to slip stitch across. Just going to give it a knot, and I'm going to slip stitch across the band or the handle. So I've reached the other point. I'm going to end it off, and I'm going to reconnect the yarn, and I'm going to slip stitch back on the opposite side, giving it like a nice edging on both sides. This just gives a nice straight edging, and it prevents you from seeing these bumps in the bag, and it also prevents the bag, as you can see, this side is not stretching this much as this side. So we just slip stitch across, so we meet the other side, and we slip stitch back again. And as you can see, now, doing the slip stitch on either side, if I pull it now, it's not that stretchy anymore. So this is what the bag looks like. All we now need to do is take our tapestry needle, and we're just going to weave in all the ends for our bag. And that is what the bag looks like. And okay, we just need to remove all the stitch markers, weave in the ends, and our bag is complete. That is it for today's video tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe for more videos. You will be making your own bags. Remember to tag me, Yarn Over with Natasha. I have a Facebook group as well, where you can tag and share your bags that you've made.